Well, hello everybody. Mike with Spray Jones. Welcome to the most important video of 2023. We're going to get into fire retardants and spray foam insulation. You've trusted me for all these years watching this channel that I have kept you in the information section, the factual section on spray foam insulation's capabilities, pros and cons, but I also do not give in to wild hype and sensationalism. We're going to take a walk today through sense and sensibility, and I'm going to use everyday terms that everybody can understand. You want to know, you tuned in here today to find out, is the stuff poison? Is the stuff dangerous? Is it going to burn up? Is it going to cause me problems? Or what are the trade-offs? Have you put something in the product that is going to cause harm? Well, we're going to get into that. It's very easy to answer on a level that everybody can understand, and all you need to do is take natural, simple rules, which are have the sense of an old cow. You're going to eat the hay and you're going to leave the sticks behind, and you won't have a problem. So here we're going to get into it today. Where did this all begin?
This test shows what can happen to almost every piece of children's clothing sold in America.
At least one child dies every day of fabric-related burns.
In 1973, the federal government began requiring children's pajamas to be fire safe.
And the most widely used flame retardant was Tris. Millions of mothers have put their babies to bed in Tris-treated night clothes.
But this was the 1970s, a period of growing concern about the environment. Focus shifted from fire to Tris itself.
Scientists fear Tris may cause cancer, thousands of cases among children.
I don't want my children sleeping in it. I don't want other people's children sleeping in it, bathed in a chemical that's going to cause cancer.
What does the Tris story reveal about how chemicals are regulated? And nearly 40 years later, what do we really know about the flame retardants in our everyday products? Back in 1975, California Governor Jerry Brown enacted a fire safety standard for upholstered furniture. It was called TB 117, and to meet it, manufacturers put flame retardants, including Tris and others, in couches and cushions.
Upholstered furniture burns fast.
Because of the size of California's marketplace, it became the de facto fire safety standard across the country, and in fact, in many other countries.
All right, so that video sounds pretty scary, right? Well, no, wrong. It's not. Let's wade through what that clip is telling us. I showed you that because it's a 2015 New York Times video that they put together on the birth of the fire retardant regulation industry is what it's about. And then the one product that got a lot of flack for how they were solving the very problems that the regulators wanted. That is a typical scenario where we go from ignorance of a product or a potential hazard to having a knee-jerk reaction to say, all right, we need to have, for this instance, fire retardants. We can't have children's clothing or our furniture, for that matter, burning up and killing us very quickly, and I would agree with that. So let's have something placed into the products that's going to slow down and inhibit ignition and fire spread and smoke development and all of these things. So what's the fallout then after we have this testing? We have to develop a test of how quick the products burn. What type of fire retardants do we want to put into them? What's the regulation then going to be on the fire retardants? Because spray foam insulation in 1975 to 1985 was in its Generation 1 infancies. And I will tell you right now that brominated Tris was never ever used, ever, not once, in the development, early or later, of polyurethane foams. Not in spray polyurethane foam insulation, okay? There's a lot of other foams out on the market, not spray formulated, that have had their times of different chemistry that they've placed in it. But again, to be fair, people go from saying you need to place this product in to then what is the product going in, and then how are we going to set up and devise a testing. A lot of times the equipment or the methods to test the product don't even exist. So we can only move in the knowledge as a country and as an industry and as a legislative body. We can only move at the pace of what the knowledge and revelation is that the people are testing the products to. And a lot of the products today that we are consuming much, much safer in many cases than what was done 30 and 40 years ago. Why? More advanced testing, more understanding of what we're looking for, more understanding of how to test for it, and so on and so forth. So I want you to see something here about spray insulation. In Canada, we have a master standard that spray foam insulation has to meet. It is what's called the CanULC Standard. So this just means Underwriters Laboratory of Canada. I have the page here in front of me, and we're going to turn to some specifications quickly. 2.1, they're going to declare that they are going to reference inside the standard. Normally to get this is like a $200 download. This is an old standard, but one that's relevant for today's conversation because the new requirements haven't gotten any more lenient. They're going to tell you that anything in this standard, they're going to tell you in the standard what you must test to in order to meet it. All right. And we have one here for thermal insulation, but this is the one I want you to see. They have referenced their own standard CanULC S102 standard method of test for surface burning characteristics of building materials and assemblies, the S102 fire test. Now, in Canada, you are not going to certify and have your product meet regulations without some sort of fire retardant to help you pass the S102. It is legislation. So if you don't like that, like you're going to have to go to the governing bodies that have determined with CanULC that one, a fire test is required, the nature of that test, how they're going to test for it, how it's going to be burned, how it's going to be destroyed, right? The time frames, all the parameters of the test, they set them up. Right? They view that that's relevant. And then the suppliers and the chemistry that goes into these have to create something that is thereby going to enable them to meet or exceed the standards set forth in the test. Right? Then we come up with, all right, the chemistry and the ingredients that are going into the product to make the final product, whether or not there's additional regulation on whether or not you can be allowed to use that, and that's what we're going to get into right now. But closed cell spray foam, 2-pound foam in Canada never has and never will ever use brominated tris. Now, before we go on to what is in the foam, I want you to understand something. If I say the word beer, come on over, we're going to drink beer. You should understand that there are dozens of types of beer. There's ale, lagers, pilsners, India Pale Ales, there's stout, there's bitters. So there is a huge, and all of those involve different ingredients, different brewing techniques, different temperatures that they're served at, totally different tastes, right? So beer is a generic term. What type of beer? I could hand you a stout like Guinness. You may not like Guinness, but you like something else. You might like a lager, right? So lagers are a different brewing process than a stout. So when we get into dealing with these chemical names, you need to understand that the first 4 letters, T-R-I-S, tris, is not a bad word. They've done a heck of a marketing job in that video and in the legislation that they put forth to make you fearful of the word T-R-I-S. When in reality, there are literally 10s and 20s different kinds of chemistry behind this, and the first 4 letters, T-R-I-S, doesn't mean that you're going to be sick and dying. In fact, we're going to get into it, that tris is used, but there are multiple different kinds, just like there's different kinds of beers. So we're going to take a look at that now. Okay, let's take a look at what this chemical fire retardant is. This is the organization OECD stands for Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development. It was founded in 1961. There's 38 member countries. In it, it's supposed to be a free-flowing share of information towards chemicals and products that one country or another will be producing or importing, exporting, and making sure that these countries want this product and that there's some sort of international standardization for what's going on. And that's what this is. A SIDS form stands for Screening Informational Data Set. So here it is. Here's the tris 1-chloro-2-phosphate. The cast number is listed. It doesn't matter whether this is a TCPP or that's what this is, TCPP. or a TCEP. They're all going to fall under the same CAS number. Now, don't check out on me here. They're just going to state at the beginning of this, and we'll keep it simple and straightforward, that presently it's a low priority for future work of evaluation. So that right off the bat shows you that we're not dealing with something that is inherently dangerous. But I'm going to skip down. TCPP has low volatility at ambient temperature and pressure and is produced in a closed system. So they're talking about the fact that working with it in factory, in-house, is not going to be highly dangerous. TCPP shows low acute toxicity following oral, dermal, or inhalation exposures. It is a slight skin and ear irritant and not genetically active. Repeated dose studies show no adverse effects. It is neither neurotoxic or terogenic. So we're going to skip to those sections. Here we go, genetic toxicity. It's been evaluated in a number of in vitro and vivo genetic assays. It was found not to be genetically active in 2 bacterial assays using Salmonella and Saccharomyces. Now, they're referencing here the Ames assay. So in the New York Times video that I shown a sound clip bit, they talk about testing brominated tris with the first time ever developed in the 1970s. The Ames test was developed using bacteria cultures to figure out if they cause mutagens in the bacteria cultures, that therefore they could conceivably predict that there was going to be mutation in human cells. That's how they came up with that extrapolated results to ban the brominated tris. So they're using the very test that all the hubbub was about. And they're telling you here that there was no unscheduled DNA synthesis. Right? So therefore, TCPP is not considered to be genetically active. Also, TCPP was tested in hens for acute delayed neurotoxicity. 2 doses were administered orally to hens 21 days apart. No evidence of delayed neurotoxicity was noted. Therefore, at this point in this document, they're stating that it's not causing problems. Now, you can call BS on this. You can say that they're a bunch of damn liars. That's your right. But we are using the very tests here that in the earlier 1970s caused all the problems. So taking the standard that they developed then and applying it to the new chemistry of fire retardants, they're saying that it's not causing it. Now, if you want to accuse them of falsifying their data, you can go right ahead. You can say that they're lying to us to achieve an agenda. Fine, I get all of that. Right? You can even sit there and say that the fire retardants aren't needed and that they're going to cause more harm. That's your prerogative. But I'm showing you that they're stating that a standard exists. You don't sell. You can't apply without fire safety standard. The fire retardant that is being used globally in all sorts of plastics is TCPP and TCEP. It is not brominated tris, even though it has tris in the name. All right? And I'll show you that here in a second. All right, here is our wall-tight V3. This is version 3, Gen 3. We don't even sell it anymore. It's got a blowing agent in it that it's been determined that we can't use it. We haven't been using it now since going into 2020. But here on the material data sheet, we're seeing the TCE ethyl P, TCEP, right? So it's in the fire retardant. It is a fire retardant in the chemistry on version 3. And here is the CMO1. So this is, in essence, version 4, if you will, generation 4. Again, TCE ethyl P. So under the CAS number 13674-84-5, you will find that it is listed TCPP and TCEP, and that they have the same non-toxicity results for each. Government of Canada, over 15 years ago, did a toxicity on these 2 products, TCEP and TCPP, and determined the same thing, that there's no immediate danger to health and safety of the inhabitants of Canada or the environment. And that's an official document that I have that you can see if you would like. But what we're showing you here is that the fire retardant, as much as determines on the industry that we've created to testing, it's not causing the problem. Okay, so let's wrap this up. For those of you that have been with me this far in the video, I'm going to close out on some strong points here. In order to get some of the best insider information, I used the cell phone number that I have for one of the top chemists in Canada that's working in the foam industry, and he knows me by name, and said, "How you doing, Mike?" And we ended up chatting, and he said, "Well, first and foremost, Mike," he said, "we never have and never will use the harsh fire proofing retardants in the foam. Never has used it." He said the government of Canada specifically has reviewed TCEP and TCPP and determined at this time that it's allowed and it's safe. And he said for things people should know is that it's an integral part of the chemistry. It is a liquid. It is used to help lower the viscosity in the chemistry for the chemical reaction, and it does bind up and become part of the polyol and is linked in the chemistry. Now, you can call him a damn liar if you want. I don't. I think he knows what he's talking about. I also think he doesn't have an agenda. He's not trying to protect his job or his corporation. You know, he's off the record talking to me. He's got no reason to lie. He said that Canada and the US have the most stringent and enforced fire safety standards in the world. He said China's got some pretty aggressive standards, but they don't enforce them, as well as Europe. So he said ours are active, the standards are clear. In Canada, we use thermal barriers, whereas in the United States, he said they're looking for ignition barriers. Different terminology for different reasons at different points in the build. So he said these things are enforced. He said the fire retardants that we're using are not in powder format. They're liquid. They're formed. They are part of the chemistry. And he said it's quite simple. Don't eat the foam. He said once it's sprayed and in the walls, you're not disturbing it, you're not cutting it, you're not taking it out and coming in contact with it. It's not like a mattress or a piece of furniture where you're actually coming in physical contact, where it's coming in contact with your clothes or directly with your skin. And then we talked a little bit about the green guard. Now, looking at this document that is before us right now, this is the wall-tight V5. And it doesn't matter whether it's wall-tight or we're talking about Huntsman or we're talking about open cell foam. Most of the foams that are of the major manufacturers these days are going to have the Green Guard certification. The Green Guard is the lesser, and the Green Guard Gold is the most stringent. Now, I have got a little bit of the UL 2818. You can't see that. I'm going to go to the page here where you can. Here we go. Here is the UL 2818 standard. This one is from 2014, reference for the Green Guard certification program. Now, to keep this sort of moving forward quickly, is looking for volatile organic compound emissions from building materials and finishes using dynamic environmental test chambers. By an accredited indoor quality testing laboratory recognized by the UL environment. So we've written the standard, we've got the most advanced pieces of equipment at this time, and then we have figured out what we're looking for and how we're going to look for it. But again, it's volatile organic compounds. On this page, we're looking at concentration levels of formaldehydes, aldehydes, individual VOCs, and the concentration levels that are going to be permitted. The Green Guard Gold certification is even more stringent. Its table is set forth here. And it's 100 times, but whatever they're looking for, they're looking at it at a rate of difficulty 100 times beyond. They want a safety factor of 100 times beyond, whereas Green Guard is 10 times beyond. So in wrapping up the fire retardant areas, for starters, they're not determined to be a volatile organic compound, the TCEP or the TCPP. So the first thing is, if you don't like the fire retardants, one, we have a mandatory fire enforced regulation across the board in Canada throughout North America. So on a legislative level, you'd have to get the mandatory fire standards for burn propensity and occupancy and smoke development and flame spreader. You'd have to get those standards removed or changed. Then you've got to define what products can be even used in order to qualify for whatever standards you're going to have less. At this time, TCEP and TCPP have been determined by the legislative bodies as safe, non-volatile organic compounds. And then further to that, if you want to take third-party testing like GreenGuard, you can have them start testing for TCEP and TCPP, but they're not. They're only testing for volatile. So if you want to claim that there's a problem with fire retardants in spray foam insulation, it's a really bogus claim to make at this time, because one, there isn't a known carcinogenic product of brominated tris, like brominated tris, in the foam to begin with. Secondly, the products that are being used are there because they need to meet mandatory standards that you can't achieve for fire safety without them. Secondly, or thirdly, the governing bodies that have mandated the fire endurance tests have also mandated that the products that we're using to place to achieve these results are not a problem. And there's multiple documents to show that. They can all be lying, but that's what we have at this time. And then fourth, extra indoor air quality people haven't yet begun testing for non-volatile organic compounds, or semi-volatile at best. They're only testing for volatiles, and they're testing at a rate of either 10 times what they're looking for or a factor of 100. So at this time in space, in 2023, closed cell and open cell foam are the safest that we can make it with the knowledge that we have of what we're supposed to be doing and looking for. We have fire safety tests, we have regulations that we have to meet, we have fire retardants that are in the foam to meet these mandatory studies. Those ingredients have been tested and certified, and this time the authorities having jurisdiction are not saying that they are toxic. Now, somebody could come out and change their mind, but there's going to have to be additional testing on the Ames testing. The Ames testing that designated brominated tris as possibly being a problem and had it removed has not found the same reasons in the products that we're using now. So to go out and claim that the spray foam has got some sort of toxic ingredients in it is completely factually wrong. You cannot claim that the spray foam is using the same products that have been banned. That's wrong, because there haven't been. TCEP and TCPP are the two most common fire retardants in the world right now. They're globally, they're everywhere, in every type of plastic that consumers and construction materials are being bought and sold and used. And then lastly, change the standards, write a rule that says you can't use these products, get some evidence that says that these products should be removed if you think that they should, and lastly then, what are we going to do to comply and protect occupant safety and indoor air quality? Then start establishing new advanced tests for semi or non-volatile organic compounds. So I don't know where else to go with this to wrap this up, other than the products at this time in space are deemed to be safe, and if you want to write a standard or come up with some groundbreaking legislation or testing that proves otherwise, have at her. But right now, it's totally bogus to claim that the foam is unsafe, that it's leaching out toxins, and that it's utilizing something that is banned or should be banned, because they've already had a review on it. So I'm going to wrap it up at this point. This is a long enough video. If you stayed this long, thank you. Share this with somebody, like and subscribe, comment on yourself on the video itself, and we'll catch you in video number 5 of Fake News. See you then.